Good evening from the UK. I'm Gloria, and this is Open Minds live chat show. This evening, I have a returning guest who's become a very close friend, and I love her to bits, and she makes me giggle. And she was on, I think it was Inception last year. Welcome back, Gail. Mwah! Welcome back.
Hey, it's so I can't believe a year went by that fast, and I'm so happy to see you again and be together with you.
Oh, I've been, when we messaged the other day, and I thought, oh my God, I just need that uplifting, inspiring, funny chat. So we're imagine we've gone for the coffee. I forgot my coffee, but never mind. We've
Okay.
gone. We've gone for the coffee. We're sitting down, and we're going to go on about what's going on in your world. However, before we start, I would like to. You knew I was going to do this. I would like to give a shout out to David, Gail's husband, and just say to him, David, rubbish. There you go. So now that's done, and David will know what I'm talking about, and he's obviously very happy now. Um, Gail, for anyone in the audience that's either going to watch live or going to watch on the replay that hasn't heard of you, could you give a brief sort of bio of who and what you are?
Oh, that caught me on the spot.
I like to do things like that.
I don't know who and what I am, but I'm here with you today.
You're here with
Uh,
me today.
um, let's see. I don't know. I have a hard time talking about myself
I
that
know
way.
you do. I know,
Oh,
and
so
you
you're
did
gonna make me do
last time.
that?
Yes, you did last time. You did last time.
Okay. Let's see. A bio. Uh, I live in Northern California in 15 acres of apples and assorted fruits. I
Yeah.
spend a lot of time processing food in the summertime. I
Hmm.
love feeding people and giving them my jams and jellies and dried fruits. And I've started a podcast, and I had no idea that I was ever going to be doing podcasts ever in my life, just like
Yes.
everything in my life. I don't plan the things, they just sort of happen.
Yep.
I was initiated into Mongolian shamanism as a Buryat Mongolian shaman
Hmm.
in 2011. I've been, let's see, since 1998. I've done remote viewing and assortments of unusual parapsychology experiments for Dean Radin and Russell Targ, and I'm still doing things for them today. Let's see.
You're an amazing medium. Come
I
on.
don't like I do some medium things and I do I seem to be like I feel like I'm not one person that I have like one specific specialty,
Yeah,
but
like me.
I'm
Yeah.
able to access into lots of different
Yeah.
things. I can bend a fork, I can
Yeah.
remote view, I can do precognition, I've dreamt things, I've lived that kind of a life since I was a young child, so it's really part
It's
of
who
who I
you are.
am.
It's who you are. I mean, I asked you that, and I did it last time because you don't like to talk about what you do. However, from coming, even though I'm slightly biased, because I am your husband's second wife going on the craft,
Yes.
even
Oh,
though,
let me tell the audience why that is, so they don't get confused. My husband and Gloria are both intensely waiting for the ship to come and take them away. And my husband has been saying to me for years, when the ship comes, Gail, we're going to go together and we're going to have this fabulous experience. And I keep telling him, I'm a Taurus. I'm of the earth. I need to stay here where I belong. I said, but you go. It's okay. You go. It's no problem. And then I met Gloria. And
yes,
Gloria said she was going off on a ship. So I said, if you two could go together, this would be wonderful. This way I know
yeah,
my husband won't be alone. He'll have
yes.
you. And I'll be down here waiting for telepathic messages that the two of you can send me after you're up in the ship.
Absolutely. So it's all planned. We've got
Yes.
this all planned, and yes, we don't have mental health problems either because it's going to happen. Right. So now
No,
we
no, no, he's a scientist. He's not
and
well,
on that note, I'm having, David Rubbish on my show. I'm going to have David on my show soon, Inception podcast. And then obviously Mr. and Mrs. David together on the show, which more than likely will have, expletives, X on it and everything else, but it will be a blast. And
I'm sure there'll be lots of laughter.
lots of laughter. And what I'm going to do, I mean, the reason I asked you this time again to give a bit of bio, and the reason I asked you before is because I, being biased, know the contribution you have given to humanity. There are millions and billions of people doing it, but I'm focusing just on you. And the work you've done with Russell Targ, with Dean Radin, that really helped open the door to the likes of me, a medium, and, and all the other billions of, paranormal experiences is just limitless what you've done with the experiments. Because without them experiments, I love the fact that you were the guinea pig. That's fun. But without that, you're so in tune with your psychic abilities. You showed them what it was all about. It wasn't a near miss. And I agree with David. They didn't need anyone else. I agree with what he stated on the other show I watched. They could have just had you, but obviously they need to have more. I get that. So that's the reason why, Gail, that your contribution, and then you've taken that and then you brought it, and you've always been behind the scenes, a bit like me. And then I hit podcasting, never didn't know how that happened either. It just happens, doesn't it? It's just someone's manipulating it. And then you brought out small medium at large? Have I got it correct?
It's a small medium at large. It's a book I wrote but haven't published, and it's also the name of my website and my podcast.
Yeah. So you've gone all the way, and there you are. So that is the reason. So my conversation with you, me and you're having a chat, it's an organic chat. We're just, you're qualified to answer my question.
Oh, thank you. I have to say, I just had, I'm on my 23rd episode of my podcast because I only do 2 a month, but I had just interviewed my first celebrity.
Wow.
It was so much fun. I don't know. It should come out the end of July if we get the editing done in time, because we ended up talking for 2.5 hours instead of the 1 hour like we planned.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. I think you're of the generation, but not sure. It was this Tommy Chong, a comedian of Cheech and Chong, who had done a film back in the old days in the 70s called Up in Smoke.
That would be American. I'm unaware of that.
Unaware of it. Well, he's very, very well known here, and he's 84 years old now.
Yes.
And they're credited for like the first film showing pot growing and pot smoking, and
I need to get to know him.
Yeah, so they say he's part of the first generation that exposed all these things on film the way that they did. Mm-hmm. And we just had a hysterical 2.5 hours together.
Oh, I love it.
And all of the history. But I'd never had a celebrity before, and they're a little different. They don't answer your emails. You don't get any information. They just show up.
They just show up. Yeah, I've had a couple of celebrities, and I in agreement with you that how they turn up is totally different. Book an appointment.
Yes.
However, let's come back to you. So we've got some areas, we've got multiple areas, but I really want to, because medium to medium, I would like to touch on your mediumship first, just you, before you went out and did the PSI and all that. So when you were a small child, the mediumship was already there, but were you unaware
in fact, I never really understood where my mediumship part played in back then. Mm-hmm. As much as I understand it now when I do shamanic blessings with people.
Yeah.
Because I end up interacting with spirits of their deceased persons that they're trying to, get in touch with again. Mm-hmm. So that's where I feel more of like a mediumship that I'd had to actually say to myself out loud, I guess you really are a medium, Gail, because you're
Yeah.
talking to these people's deceased family, you know,
I mean,
and you're giving them accurate information and you don't even know them.
that is, you can watch mediums on TV, celebrity mediums, which is not the area I'm in. I'm a rescue medium. That's the label I've got. But, for me, I'm still astounded, even though I still do it. I mean, I run a group for mediums. I'm still in that awe. Are you still in the awe when it comes out?
I'm in awe of every single unexplainable thing that I may know,
Yeah,
experience, feel. And it doesn't matter that I've had them for more than 60 years.
yeah.
It always feels like, ooh, like
It does,
it's
doesn't it?
nothing I ever take for granted.
No.
It's nothing I ever feel like I control and I decide what's going to be. I just feel that I always stay open. And when it always happens, I'm always like, wow. And,
Wow. Where
and
did
that,
that come from? I tell you what we do. Let's do something different. I'll go first. I'll share. I've got quite a few, but one really sticks out. I'll share one experience of a spirit coming through and how it came through and what happened. And that was one of my what the fuck moments. I could not believe what had happened. So you do it and it doesn't stagnate, but you get sort of, it goes along as it should. I'll share one, then you share one. That's just to kick this off. Are you ready?
okay.
Um, it was a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. It was a recent one. And I was in a group, and all of a sudden, because I see um, what, the dead, the spirits. And I saw this pallbearer come in the front room as I'm in the group, and the coffin coming through. And I was going, what's going on? And it was coming through. And next thing, stood to this coffin was this gentleman, but he was in the suit he was buried in. Okay. Now, I'd never really, that's not too unusual, but the next part is, and I was sitting literally on this sofa in the group, and he come up and he sat right next to me on the sofa. And at first, I hadn't guessed it was the man inside the coffin, so to speak. He was giving me the context of where he was coming from. And
Mhm.
the person in the group could take, obviously, this gentleman, he was so close to me, the personality, everything came out. But that I'd never been given a message in such a context, like the pallbearers, the coffin. I didn't see him get out, but then he was there, but he sat right next to me. I could see his skin. He looked like he'd passed. And obviously there was a telepathic community. So that's one of my really paranormal contacts with spirit, doing mediumship. Give me one of yours.
Well, I don't know. I thought about one during a table tipping session I was going to share, but then I thought about another as you're talking. So I think I'm switching to the other one now.
Go.
So, because this one was with a direct message.
Yeah.
Um, I was at a retreat for, I'm not sure, I think it was called The Spiritual Care of the Living and Dying.
Mm-hmm.
And it was with Ram Dass and Wavy Gravy and a whole host of characters. And it was for, I think, 6 days, something like that, or 5 or 6 days. I can't remember. And during the retreat, we were doing many different, like all night chantings and different things that really would open your spirit.
Yeah.
And I was about to eat lunch, and all of a sudden I got this. For me, this one I do have visual, but visual is not my strong point.
Yeah.
For me, it's auditory. I
Yeah.
hear all these things.
Yeah.
And I see on occasion, but it's, I think like each thing, there's like something senses stronger than the others. Like some people may smell better, or some people feel their body feelings. So for me, it's auditory, and I don't know who the voices are that are coming into my head, but that's where the info comes. And I heard that I should go to this little Native American little dome that was on the property where we were, and that that I needed to go and sit inside that dome. So I
Okay.
just followed the words I heard in my head, and I left. I didn't have my lunch, which was unusual because I love to eat.
Yeah.
But when I get a message like that, that's that strong, I know to follow those
Yeah.
voices. So I go to the temple, the little, it's not a temple, it's like a little tiny temple. It's just like something you can put 8 people in, small. And I go and I lay down on the floor in it, and I start to have what I've come to know later as sort of is like a Kundalini experience.
Yeah.
And I'm laying on the floor and I'm going through this whole kind of feeling like I'm a magnet being pulled through the earth. And I can't speak, but I'm starting to talk, but it's not English. And all these other languages are coming out of me.
Wow.
And as this is going on, I'm having vision, which I don't normally have.
Yeah.
And I see first a Native American person in there with me, a spirit of a Native American. And the next thing I feel is, and this is not this is not my guru, and I wasn't really that much into the history of what Ram Dass did,
Yeah.
but his guru came to me, Neem Karoli Baba.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, as I'm laying on the floor, the spirit of this dead man is sitting on my stomach and my whole body.
Wow.
And he's looking at me. And I'm expecting, now that I see it's Neem Karoli Baba, I'm expecting some spiritual wise message is going to come out, or there's going to be the truth
Yeah.
or whatever. Instead, he says to me, "Could you give Ram Dass a message for me?" And I say, "Okay." And he says, "Tell him, get on with it." And I said, "Okay, all right." And then he disappears.
Mm-hmm.
And some 3 hours later, or a long, take me hours before I can't walk after this experience. I have to crawl out of the temple. And someone finds me, and they eventually bring me to Ram Dass.
Yeah.
And they bring me to Ram Dass, and I tell him, this may sound really crazy, but I had an experience from your guru, Neem Karoli Baba, who came and paid me a visit and asked me to give you this message. And he told me to tell you, get on with it. I said, what could that possibly mean? And he looked at me with the most serious eyes and said, I know exactly what it means. Thank you very much for giving me the message. And I spoke to another man because I was needing some sort of guidance about all the crazy things that had just happened to me for 3.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spoke to this man named Vishnu, who was a temple keeper for a Hanuman temple in New Mexico. And when he saw me after that experience in that kind of glowing, higher consciousness place that I was in, he said, I told him about the Native Americans and the things that were happening to me and the visions of souls that were coming while I was in there.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to me, well, I just want you to know that there was, I don't remember what of Neem Karoli Baba, if it was part of his ashes or there was something of his that was in there.
Wow.
There was, I think, might have been Neem, maybe not, but there was Native American hair and nails, fingernails, and some other items that were there from the deceased visions I was getting. But I didn't know that they were in little things in the temple.
Wow.
So he said if I had any more of these experiences to please come and visit him. And oddly enough, I ended up going to his temple in New Mexico a year or something later and meeting my first Huichol Indian person because I had a dream that I needed to go to his temple. There was someone there for me to meet. And I've been involved with the Huichols now for 34 years.
That's synchronicity. It's all it's meant to be that way. You see, this is who you are, and this is why I make you do the bio.
Oh,
you know what I mean? And I always have an agenda, always, especially in my groups I run, to bring out the being inside of you. I mean, the work that you do. I mean, anyone can say, I'm a medium, I'm this, anyone can say, anyone, it doesn't really matter. But so I like to get out of you these experiences of how you work. And that is just beautiful. I mean, I don't know if I could have gone through something like that. And that's another thing we need to look at. Before we're going to go to psychic abilities next. So there's sort of 3 areas I'd like to cover with experiences we can share. However, would you say that experience, your mediumship at that point, what happened to you, would you agree and say that really opened you up totally, and maybe did the a large, or even you can even go grandiose, paradigm shift into another sort of area with your psychic abilities?
I would have to say that every time I've had one of these, I assume these are Kundalini experiences from what I've read and researched about having them.
Yeah.
And I've had them throughout my life, but I've had maybe a total of 7 of them, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
And I would say that I think that every time it propelled me further. I can't expect to say which way you mean, but
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
it is. I mean, it's we've discussed this last time. It's like I use different terminologies now. It's like a conscious expansion, and then there's an excitement and passion. And synchronistically, you're going somewhere else. But it's normally, I mean, it happens anyway, naturally. But after these, what is labeled a Kundalini experience, a shift. I mean, I've had the increments of them as they go through, and then the big ass one, and each time my consciousness expanded and I got excited and interested in a field that I never really thought I would go into. And, if it's not that happening, it's normally the multidimensional beings are getting me to do podcasts. There you go. So I just wanted to, for anyone in the audience that, want to ask, because I have to ask like the devil's advocate, what is the point of a Kundalini experience? It's not just to say you're spiritual. It actually has an effect on your consciousness. And this is where I've been the last year. All of our experiences, whether it's mediumship, PSI, psychic abilities, I now look at and teach what effects has it had on our consciousness, our own individuality, which I think is vital to look at. It's not about, I mean, me being what you call inducted, contactee. It's not about that. It's about what effect did it have on my consciousness. So that's why I asked you that question. Now I'm going to go into, there's a segue to go into psychic ability. Show your spoon or your fork.
Oh,
where's a fork? Now, there's a fork. Now, you tell me.
There you go.
There you go. We got your fork. How did you get into that? Come on.
Well, first off, I want to say I'm not a bender. Where there are some people, I have a guest that I'm going to have on my show that I was just on her show. The woman bends hundreds of forks and silverware. I mean, she did one while we were talking on the show. She just, twisted a spoon all the way around. So I have seen people who, what I call them, they're just natural benders.
Yeah.
I'm not a natural bender, but I am thrilled to show my fork.
Yeah.
I didn't believe in bending. Like I knew that there was the Uri Geller and the spoon bending, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not a skeptic, but I don't accept it that it's exactly true unless I don't say it's not true. And I don't say it's possible, and I was at a International Remote Viewing Association conference, and this man who was known very well as one of the best teachers of spoon bending, Jack Hoke, he's passed away now. He was having this class where you went down to the hotel ballroom, and on the floor there were hundreds of pieces of silverware. And he said, go over and pick the one that's your piece that you can feel calling you. And I picked this spoon, and I had no reaction with the spoon. So I went back to the pile, and I found the fork that called me. And sure enough, with the little bit of instruction, which was just to yell at the spoon, bend, 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 or in my case, the fork, And I conferred with this woman who does hundreds. That's exactly what she experiences. So when I share this, I'm not the only person who's saying this was what it was like.
Yeah.
There's a point where you're just sitting there and you're like going like this gently with your finger on the metal part. And all of a sudden, as you're saying, bend, 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 it's like the molecules and the metal all becomes liquid.
Yeah.
And you have to feel, and it gets sort of like warm. And in that moment that you feel that, that's when you take the utensil and just bend it around like this. I only have 2 rolls. This woman had forks with 4 rolls in them. I mean, and you can't, after you do it, you can't get it back to be a fork again.
I mean, I remember way back in the day, I'm not that old, but way back in the day, we got that's terrible grammar for an Englishman, isn't it? We had Uri Geller on our TVs, and he got the whole of the nation. Now remember, I was a medium, so at that point I was at my height of doing what I was doing, and he got everyone to put forks and everything on their TVs in the UK. All right, I put a fork. Did anything happen? Did it? Hell, no, it didn't. So at that point, I wasn't impressed. But I remember it's always hindsight, which is a bitch. But at that point, I said, no. And you know how, and I agree with what you said, it's not that you're skeptical, you don't believe. For me, I open up and I don't judge anything. However, to become my truth, it has to be experiential, like you experienced it. It has to be experiential to become the truth, but I'm open to it. How I've found out about spoon bending and everything else was quantum physics. And how that happened for me was I started to learn about the particle and the wave. And I went off and studied quantum physics for idiots, if you know what I mean. Years ago, when it all came out, and Dr. Quantum, yeah, I was fascinated because I was experiencing going through wars, going on craft, all that, and I broke every Newtonian law. So I needed to find out what is going on. And so when you were just describing that, my head was going, so it was in the particle, there's the observer, and whatever you did with your consciousness turned it to the wave. You made it malleable, creative, and then when you done it, and then it went back to the particle, so it's solid. I have no problem with it. So, but many still think it is impossible to do because I'm going to ask you, when people try to bend spoons or forks, why do you think they unable to do it at that time? What do you think's blocking them?
I have no idea.
Oh, go on.
I don't. I mean, for me, it was I did not. I mean, even when I was going like this, I was shocked. Just like we say, we get like a surprise.
Yeah.
Wow, this really does,
Okay. On that note, then, we could say it's because we're open about things. Would you say that? This is going to lead somewhere about being more.
Well, yes, I do think it's just the same. Like when people ask me about how do I become more intuitive or how do I improve this, I always tell them, well, when you hear that tiny little inner voice, because it's so low and quiet now because you haven't listened to it for a long time, the more that you accept that little tiny voice, it will become stronger and stronger. And then you'll be able to discern between the one that's just a passing crazy thought in your mind and the one that's really a message.
Yeah, I'm with you. Right, we're still going to hold on here for a while. You've done psychometry, yeah?
Psychometry. Is that the pendulum?
Well, it's when you hold something, someone gives you something, and you get the images and read it.
Yes.
I knew you'd done that.
In fact, it was a penny.
Hold on a minute. Hold on. So we're going to do now, like 2 kids, yeah? We're going to do a share. You go first. I've got a real funny one. You go first and share your experience doing psychometry.
Okay. I always never know which word is which thing.
Oh, don't worry about it. It just makes me look good. Psychometry,
Right, okay. So again, it was at one of these international remote
Yeah.
viewing association groups. And what happened was, like, I've always thought rocks and things held energy,
Yeah.
and that, I would feel drawn to certain objects and feel things about it. But I'd never done the actual experience of, are you really getting information from this? How would you factually know?
Yeah.
And so I never knew whether it was truly real, or I was just getting a psychic moment, or what exactly was really happening, until I was in a group with a woman named Bev Jager. I'm so fortunate to have met these people, as I tell you
Yeah.
about each one, because they've passed away now.
God
And
bless.
these people were doing these things for 30 or more years. They weren't fly by night people. So she had an organization called the Psi Squad, PSI Squad. I think it may still have carried on after she passed away. I'm not sure. And she worked for over 30 years directly with police departments around the country.
Yeah.
And she would do, remote viewing, psychic work on finding missing persons and helping them solving cases.
Yeah.
So she was an established person.
Yeah.
She was not some Looney Tune or whatever. She was quite a lady. But of course, the police would always deny they ever worked with a psychic,
Yeah.
because they don't want you to know that in the reports and things. So she's giving her class or her lecture at the conference, and she says, and now we're going to do an exercise on object. She said, I'm going to give each of you a penny, and I'm giving out 100 pennies. And she said, so there was more than 100 people in the group, so
Yeah.
the rest of the group couldn't participate. And she said, I went to the bank and got minted pennies, so they had not been handled or been used in the public yet.
Yeah.
And I gave that to a person that's in this audience of 200 people, or whatever the group was.
Yeah.
And when I give one of these pennies to each of you, I want you to know that that person for 7 days straight held those pennies on their body, except in the shower. Everywhere else, slept, worked, ate, everything, the pennies were on the person.
Yeah.
So when I give you the penny, take a piece of paper and a pencil and write down what are the images that come up to you.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got the penny, I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to know But sure enough, the penny told me everything, down to exactly which person in the few hundred it was in the room. And she said, after you've written your paper and you're done, the doors will be closed, but you can exit and go into the room and see who the person is, because they're sitting in the room, and you'll be able to see and meet if that was your person. Well, once I was going to do it, I said, wait a minute, it's the guy I had lunch with yesterday.
Oh, my Lord.
And I said, I don't know anything about him. I was with Russell and some other people who Russell knew, and so that's how I got in on the lunch.
Yeah.
But I didn't know these people. I didn't know Bev. These were people he knew. So I wrote down all the things that I thought about the man that I had seen, and I wrote down, and I think you're Lance, the man that I had lunch with. And I go in the room, and there it is. It's Lance, the guy I had lunch with. And the things that I wrote about him wasn't anything that we talked about. Like I wrote down he was a lawyer, and I saw him in a suit, and all these things that, yes, he was a lawyer and he was in a suit. And I'm just, it was a really interesting exercise, because the amount of detail that came in holding this penny was amazing. And
I love it.
To do that,
I love it. I mean, and one thing this show is going to show to people how me and you have similar experiences, but differently do we access them. All right, here's my one. One of the ones that I really love repeating. I would invite, back in the day, I had the circle in my house, yeah. And prior to that, a woman come up. I had an art exhibition for my artwork, and I was stood there, and a strange woman come up and shoved something in my hand. It was a locket. Then I just had the whole visual. So and I said to her, "Why did you do that?" And she said, "I just knew you could do it." I had no idea what I'd done. That was that. Anyway, so after that, I went, "What is this?" Went researching and found out it was psychometry. So I'm doing my circle. I said, right, there's about 4 or 5 people. I said, I want you to go and get something from somewhere. Don't tell me. Bring it on the Friday night. And then I'd all said, and I'm going to practice because I'd got this excitement. I thought, I can do that. Never mind all the other things I did. I was now going on this. So this one I have to share. So this woman there, she had a ring, something else, and I did that, you know. And then she had this tiny green, it looked like a green, tiny green stone. But it wasn't even stone, but it, you know. And I looked at it and I thought, wow, and I put it in my hand. Straight away, I saw a naked man jump out of a window with a white towel around him, running like a bat out of hell down the street. Complete video. And I just went, you know what you do? That can't be true. And to myself out loud, and she said, what? And I told her, she said, do you know where that green stone comes from? It's the green stone on top of the grave of a man who was cheating with his neighbor's wife. The husband come in, he jumped out the window, he grabbed a towel, wrapped it around him. I went, oh my God, I don't believe it. Dead on. I was so blown away with how it worked. Didn't understand it at the time, but I've never forgotten that. It's one of the ones I retell and retell. And this spirit was in the grave, so it was a double whammy for me, so to speak, from a gravestone,
Things hold information. In fact, I forgot about that. I never thought of it as psychometry, but there was an experiment that I did at the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and I had done it at the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and it was where one person would be in the Faraday cage, which is an electromagnetically shielded room, and the other person would be given an object of theirs to hold.
Mm-hmm.
And I met this amazing woman who changed my life, who was she was the most knowledgeable woman on Asian shamanism in the United States. And I had only given her a ride, so I didn't know her or anything. And I was to hold her ring. And we would have this psychic connection, which they would be filming. There was a camera on me in the room I was in, and then she was in the Faraday cage in another building.
Yeah.
And I would hold the ring and then describe the impressions I was getting. Mm-hmm. And in this particular one, I didn't know her, but I had gotten this whole, I said, she was just with an Austrian man. And they were talking about this and la, la, la. When I came out and told her about it, she said, yes, it was Father Tiso. And we were discussing consciousness, you know.
I mean, it's amazing skill. Is it not?
Austrian? I mean, it was just...
I mean, you know, this is what this show's about tonight, is about showing the normalness, but the excitement of psychic abilities.
Oh, let me interrupt you.
Go on, yes.
Because otherwise I can't remember what I wanted to tell you. This was the other part was when we were discussing that group, the Psi Squad.
Yeah.
They were doing, you know, this sort of, sometimes it feels sort of like almost parlor games when you're just describing a picture or a thing. But what's the point? You know, doesn't really do anything else after that. But in these things, when they're trying to find missing persons or the clues to solve a murder case, these are very important ways and uses of this that people might be skipping in their minds, thinking it's, you know, just fun.
Yeah.
Well, what this group would do, I was the only one who didn't receive it, but I still did the reading, is when they would get a police request about a specific missing person, they would get an object of that person from the police department. Mm-hmm. So in this case, one of the ones I had worked on with them, I'd only worked on one or two with them. It was a hairbrush. So each psychic, and they use like 5 psychics around the country, and they take the impressions that the psychic gets when they hold the brush. Mm-hmm. And then they take those impressions and they look and they see, did 3 people say it was in a cave?
Yeah.
Or did, you know, so whatever the consensus is, that's all said by the same, out of those 5 psychics, that's the information that's then given to the police department.
Yeah.
but it's through an object of the actual missing person
Yeah.
that
The
they get this
psychometry.
information.
It's
Yes.
psychometry. I didn't stay too long doing psychometry. It's sort of like each time you master a skill growing up, it incorporates in the whole. So it comes out when it needs to come out. And I learned way back that mediums, the ones that are naturally, don't even know they're a medium actually, but the psychic kids, or have a natural connection with psychometry and with remote viewing, which I've done as well in the past. And I run a workshop. I run it, I think, twice or once, I can't recall. And I took 6 mediums and I run a workshop, and I got them to work on a cold case that I'd got, and I'd worked it all out over 6 weeks. They'd never, if you're a medium, you do remote viewing anyway, but the mediums were unaware they were remote viewing. They thought because of like Russell Targ and Ingo Swann, who I love to death and saved my life, did save my life. They thought these people were, and I said, you are remote viewing when you're doing mediumship. So I gave them a cold case. I've done it twice. I've done the workshop twice. And 6 mediums who had no idea they could remote view. Even I was blown away with what was coming, I'm telling you. And there was one in the group on the second workshop, got the name, got the nicknames, got every single frigging detail, color you could think of. And I said, how do you feel? And she was like, wow. It's like, so these psychic abilities, I think, they're sort of been poo-pooed a bit, like, I'm a medium, no, but they really have value, because I did explain to them, imagine if there was a missing person, imagine if someone did need your help, you could go out there and assist, and you can give it anonymous. In this country, you give it anonymous. We got an anonymous hotline to the police.
Mhm.
You give it anonymous, and that's it. It's done. And most psychic most mediums, myself included, who do not want any limelight, would do that. It's the way it goes. But it is another important aspect of psychic abilities. So I'm going to lead us now to the next segue, which is...
I just wanted to mention that.
Oh, go on, another one. Go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
No, it was that I had the pleasure of spending time with Ingo Swann.
Oh, I know.
And,
I'm jealous. You told me last time. I'm so...
Well, yeah, he was an intense, amazing guy. And I have to say, which I'm not sure if I shared on your show, it was him who planted a seed in me that I didn't realize until so much later, which was that when I met him, the first day I met him, as we were leaving, he just turned to me and said, you know what your problem is? You're a shaman, but you just don't know how to act like a shaman.
There you go.
Well, that was before this whole world of shamanism opened up for me. After that was when I met the Ruth Inga Hines in the shamanism conference, the woman I did the ring thing with. That's when I met. I ended up becoming involved with shamans for 20 years. I mean, it was just, I ended up being, initiated as a shaman. And none of these things did I ask for or look for or say.
It comes by
it was coming, and I didn't even pay attention.
To me, I learned remote viewing from his work. I'm an artist. I loved his art. I could read his art, and I loved his art.
It was beautiful.
It was absolutely. So being an artist, I love anyone's art. It doesn't have to be a canvas. It could be, I love Victorian buildings and Gothic buildings. That to me is art. It's handcrafted. But there was something about him, and way back in the day, and I was watching all the old lectures he gave us talking, and I was experiencing contact with these ETs, extreme. And I didn't realize at the time I was remote viewing until I accidentally remote viewed somewhere I shouldn't have gone, which I won't name. And it was so the men in black were going to come on the door, and I swore I would never, ever remote view again in that way. And anyway, then I got into a group of people around the world. We're doing a bit of, the normal stuff. And I got into him and learned from him that he had experienced something similar that I had. He gave advice. I'm not going to go into detail, and he saved my life. I could have gone back, and I stepped away because it seems the type of remote viewer I was, I went, but I was seen by the other remote viewers protecting the building. Mm-hmm. Now, everyone that says they're remote viewers said, no, only a dog or a cat can pick up your energy. I'm saying, hell no, I experienced it. And I thought I'd lost it a bit because I experienced the other being push me back out. And when I went back to listen very, closely to Ingo and the experiences he had with them, I realized, and then I stopped because everyone's different in their field. Like you said, I visualize spirit, your audio. They came to me once and I told them, don't do that again. Don't do it. I don't like it. Audio out here. I'm scared. Don't do it. So yeah, I have the utmost respect for him, and I tell him he saved my life, my sanity. It was awful, and I just happened to go places you shouldn't go. But it seemed that's how my energy was, to go to places like that. So amazing man, an absolute amazing and a legend and he's in my heart for everything he did, again, for humanity, because of what he shared. It's the same thing, Gail, as what you're doing now. And especially I have the utmost respect for Dean as well, for what he's doing, especially being a scientist.
Well, he's amazing.
I mean, honestly.
I just had dinner with him about a week ago.
Oh, he's just...
We laughed, me, his wife, my husband, and we laughed our heads off. We had such a lovely time. He was in for... I didn't know why he was in Petaluma, because he doesn't live in California anymore. And it was because they were closing the campus where I was telling you the experiments we did in the Faraday cage.
Yeah.
They were closing the Institute of Noetic Science campuses. And they had sold all the land and the whole place to another organization.
Yeah.
And so he was there for the closing, and because he's the senior scientist at the institute. Yeah. So the institute still goes on. There's no issue with that. Yeah. It's just that us local people who used to be able to go there and see amazing talks and have wonderful experiences. Now I feel like I was sad that it was closed, but things have to change.
Yeah.
They'll have plenty of money and an endowment so that all the work in the parapsychology is going to continue on. So it was really, it's not a negative thing in any way. It's just for the sentiment of, it was such a wonderful, beautiful place.
Yeah, I'm with you. And that leads us, to the next segue beautifully into PSI. And, this type of work that scientists are bringing forward for us with the paranormal. I mean, we've mentioned Dean, but I want to ask you, I know you're not a scientist. I know.
No, very far from it.
Nor am I, by the way. I just thought I'd throw that one in. We do have a husband that is, but we're not going there. This is me and you. Right. Where do you think, I mean, we know what it was like way back in the day before the likes of Ingo Swann and, all the rest of them, and Dean Radin and all that. Where do you think we are with this type of work where the joining of spirituality and science are coming together? Me personally, I had a guest the other day. I'm talking more to the analytical scientific mind than as in a guest, more of a, than I've ever been able to do before. It's like an opening has come, a bridge. And how do you feel it is at this moment, the breakthrough?
Well, I have to say, I was, with COVID, all these conferences have been online.
Yeah.
So I think it was a year ago. I'm not exactly sure, but somewhere I was attending a conference. It was a remote viewing conference about, I think it was the associative remote viewing. I can't remember which branch of the remote viewing it was. And it was the first time that I had ever seen, in going to these different, I'd been going to the conferences for quite a few years over the years since I began with Dean and Russell.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first time that there were guests that were speaking totally about spirituality. And
Wow.
so it was, I mean, I was blown away at what I was hearing that I
Yeah.
had not heard, say, 10 years ago at any of these conferences.
No.
It's not like I've attended every conference, and I'm not saying they never had one talk about something.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
saw
yeah.
a complete shift that,
Yeah.
because I'm more of the spiritual end and not the scientific end,
Yeah.
I listen to these lectures, and half the time I don't understand what I'm hearing anyway, because I don't have
Yeah.
that scientific mind like that. So to see them blend the spirituality and consciousness and the things that they're reaching out and
Yeah.
researching in the science,
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I'm not whatever, but I think that tremendous leaps are happening in that area.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it excites me because I feel like we're blending in something that, I understand one half of,
Yeah.
and these people understand the other, and they're starting to realize there's an emergence of this
Yes.
together. I also believe something that I've said often to scientists is that some of the times when they're researching and wanting to scientifically prove a certain psychic or theory or something to
Mm-hmm.
prove to other scientists, I feel like some of these things are never to be proved. They're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to remain a mystery, and
Mm-hmm.
that some of the things in our life or whatever are never supposed to be discovered. Oh, this is the way it happens and why it happens, and this is the
Yeah, yeah,
science.
yeah, yeah. I'm with you.
I think that there's always supposed to be the unknown mystery, and that
I
and
agree with that.
I that's how I feel about that part of it.
Yeah.
I don't
I
mean
know.
that in consciousness. I'm saying I think the scientists are doing great things, but I
Yeah.
do think that some things are really meant to just be your own discovery, and it's your own.
Absolutely. I agree. It has to be a personal, experiential thing for the individual person. And I discussed this the other day, and I was saying the more that there's the individual experiential understanding or knowing of something, and then it comes out into a group, into the collective, then it will just triple. I mean, it's just entanglement, isn't it? It's quantum physics. It trickles out. And then you just, to me, I just see a bridge now. There's a bridge and there's access either way. I mean, I have no issue talking to a scientist that doesn't believe that in the dead. It doesn't matter because I don't see it the way they see it project on me. So there's no judgment from me. And then because I suppose I don't see it and you don't see it, that's why the bridge is allowed to come and it opens.
Mhm.
And this is not just me and you. This is happening as you've obviously discussed when you was at the conference. And I think that part is needed for others in society who are not quite sure. They need a bit of validation, scientific external evidence. So as soon as the scientists now, I mean, look at the impact that Dean's had on humanity in the last, let's say,
And Dean meditates every day.
yeah,
He has for, I don't know, 30
yeah,
years, or I
yeah,
mean for a long time.
yeah,
And he's doing, I think he's really like the top man in this field in
yes,
being able to bridge
yeah,
science and the rest of,
yeah,
he's doing amazing things. The things he's doing right now, I can't even explain what it is, but he's studying things about genetically why some people may be more psychic or
yeah,
intuitive, or
yeah,
there's all kind and things that are ways to be able to help people so that they don't have to go through depression and take all kinds of
yeah,
drugs, that there's things that can be done. So he's
yeah,
doing some deep brain research and work and things that's way over my head.
yeah,
But
it's true.
so I can't even explain any of the things that I've heard him say on some of these conferences, and doing multiple other things, including a new film. He's working on a film right now. And so he's got a lot of things going on. And I was, I'm just amazed at how much this man can produce.
I mean, yeah, it's to me, to me, he's just another little Einstein, but in a different area. You know what I mean? I see him as another little Einstein in a different scientific field. That's all. To close the show, even though it wasn't in the description, I can't not go there, because I think you are one of the most amazing people I know.
I can't believe you say this.
But you're a bit like me. You're a jack of all trades, but master of none. We're into everything.
Yes, exactly the same.
I've done that. Yeah, I've done that.
When's your birthday?
I'm a Scorpio in October. I'm a Scorpion. Scorpio.
I'm a Taurus, right, in May. Okay.
Yeah, you're like two of my children and a couple of my grandchildren at the moment. But anyway, I have to touch on the shamanism. I mean, I did study it years ago, and I think we spoke about it before, and I looked into it, and
I have to say, oh, go ahead.
Cool. No, well, let me finish my sentence. Let me finish it. Okay. Right, hold on. And it was one area that I never really researched into. Now and again, if I hear about it, I listen. And obviously with yourself, I listened last time I was on the show. Now, I would like you to tell me what effect, again, when we say we do this or we do that, what is the effect on the other person's consciousness? So we know the effect from, mediumships, from psychometry, from all the other things, experiences. When you do your shamanic blessings on people, how does that work? Is it different to psychic healing, or, what mediums do a lot, or Reiki masters and that? Or is it specific? Or could you explain for me and anyone in the audience that's really interested in what actually happens between you and the person you're healing?
Well, I have to say the timing is impeccable on the question, because I just did one yesterday.
See, I must be psychic. I must be psychic.
It's not like I do them that often, so the timing is really. I don't call them healings, even though I've always been told by other psychics and people that I'm a healer. I find like it feels like a tall order to say you're a healer, and I never feel it's you that's doing the healing anyway. Yeah. It's something that's coming through you that's healing. So that's why I have kind of hard time saying healing. So I like to say blessing, because that makes me feel more comfortable with whatever happens.
Good.
So in the case like of yesterday, what happens is I went to see someone because they're in like hospice condition and not sure how, we know that they're not going to live for a long time, but nobody knows in life exactly when that moment is, but we're getting to the tail end. And it's someone I'd only just met. So it wasn't someone I know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said, if you want me to come to your house and do a blessing on you, I would just really be happy to do that. And I might get emotional when I say this story.
You get emotional, it's fine.
Okay. And what happens is I go to her house and I have her sit in a chair in a place in the middle of a room so that she's in a wheelchair, so I can go around her with my little things.
Yeah.
And I set up an altar in the house. If they're coming to my house, it's a little easier. I don't have to bring everything.
Yeah.
But there I have to bring everything. So I have to set it up while I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I explain that I'm not going to actually do any talking.
Mm-hmm.
And that they just should close their eyes and just rest into whatever it is that they experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I start to make sounds, and I have different, like my little, I call it my shamanic tools.
Mm-hmm.
I have them all on the table, and then I listen to the auditory in my head to tell me what to do to the person.
Mm-hmm.
So then all of a sudden I happen to have this, I've had some of these things for like more than 30 years. So I have like water that came out of the river that flows through Haleakala crater in the volcano in Hawaii in a special bottle. And I heard, it's the first time I've heard to use this on this person. So I was told in my head to drop 3 little drops of that water on top of her head. And then I start playing my drum, my jaw harp. I have some different beautiful crystalline sounds. And I just I close my eyes and I start to have visions of the person's, like in this case, I saw that this woman had seen the world in the most amazing ways and that she traveled to vistas. I kept feeling like I was looking out at incredible views and that this person had not sat home. This person had really lived life to the fullest and that she was just a beautiful soul. And it just made me very emotional that I'm meeting this person in her end. And she's opening up and letting someone she does not know into her heart in a very deep way. And there's some sort of a connection that I make with that heart or soul. And that's when I feel like I may want to put my head and rest it on their lap. Or in her case, I kept feeling like I had to put my legs around her in the chair. I kept having to put my body right up close and close to her, as close as it could be, and wrap my legs around her legs. So each one of those things is a different experience by whatever I hear from the person. This is a different kind because when it's somebody that's this frail at that time, like I don't do really I blow my conch shell. That's about the loudest sound that I'll do there. But everything else, I try to feel the energy of the person and not to have, I don't want to blow her out of the water because she's very delicate right then. But the experience of the heart to heart connection, that's where I feel the healing or the blessing, or I don't know what the word is you want to call it.
No, I'm with you.
Being seen, I was really seeing her. And then at the end, I have a pendulum that was given to me by an Ecuadorian shaman. And I always tell the person, don't tell me your question, but whatever question you have in your mind, and I will show you the answer. And with her, I described every object that I had and the meaning of what it was to me when I placed it on the altar. So she knew there was my rock from the Gobi Desert, and there was my ball of grain from the end of the peyote ceremony from the Huichols from 30 years ago. So I was sharing. I hadn't done that with any other person, but with her, I wanted to really explain each thing and share what it meant to me. And then we always have a very deep and beautiful hug at the end. And she said, "Can I pay you? This was so wonderful." I said, "No. I don't want any money ever for this. This has nothing to do with monies." And I feel that the energy comes like from up here and comes through me and then goes, and I touch her body in different places that I feel like I'm supposed to press my hands and touch her. And that's the experience. And it's different with each person. When I do it with people where they want to connect to someone who's died, I will sometimes start making the position that they walked or held in, or I'll smell the cologne of the person. Or those kind of things. But each shamanic thing is different. But because I have all my shamanic clothing and tools and things that were blessed to work with shamanism, I feel like I'm protected in a way that I wasn't when I was a teenager and did medical diagnosis and took home all these dead people following me around and tried to take over my body. So I also have never had any kind of title, and people would always say they felt good after I did certain things with them or massage or whatever. So becoming this title of being given the name shaman gave me like a little form or a thing to say,
absolutely. Some structure and what you're doing.
You need structure.
Yeah, I lack structure. It's like, I'm trying to, I don't like that label, I don't like that label, but I've got to use a label for communication and structure. So, I mean, for me, you just said something, and I have a right to have my truth. So you can't go against this, all right? When you said,
I never would.
the, you better not. The energy comes in you and it goes through. I would say the energy doesn't come from anywhere. You are that energy. You are that love. You are that heart. You are it. And it's you connecting, the heart connection between one being to another. Yeah, we can say it comes in and this comes in, but no, we are the being. It is you. It is you. It's your being. Call it your higher self, call it your soul, call it whatever you want to call it. And for me, knowing you and listening to you and reading you, because obviously I read as well, you are just another big love bug, and it's you that's doing it. And you are in such a humbling way will attribute anything you do to anything else. And it's just who you are. But I'm allowed to say, sorry, I don't want you attributing it out there. This is you, Gail. And this is what you give to humanity, whether you're doing your shaman blessings, whether you're making your pots of jam and giving them away. By the way, I'm waiting for mine to come from all the way from America. Not broken, by the way.
You'll have to be a guest on my podcast show. That's how you get one.
All right, then I will be a guest on your podcast. I will be a guest, and I'll get my jam. And ulterior motives here. I'll do it just for that. No, but really, this is for me, and I wanted, and I've got the platform. It's my show, and the opportunity to say that you are a gift to humanity. What you do, and what you've done, your contribution to science, your contribution to blessings, your contribution to teaching, your contribution now, you are a bit like me. Years ago, people would say to me, you need to write a book. Now I say, I am the book. I'm an audio book. And that's what you are, an audio book. Does that resonate with you?
Absolutely, because when I wrote my book, the whole idea was that I thought if people read it, they would then have some sort of, maybe they would go and heal a relationship after they realized forgiveness was such a beautiful thing to experience. But instead, I'm finding it's coming through this podcast that I
There
didn't
you
even
go.
I was doing the podcast to supposedly promote my book.
Yeah.
And now I sort of could care less about the book.
Yeah.
All I care about is that when someone sees the show I'm either on or one of my own, that one of them writes a comment saying, I was really depressed and it was gloomy and gray, and I heard your laughter and it made my day.
Yeah, you go.
That's what's all I wanted.
That's the way it goes. I mean, I started saying there was an audiobook. It was only early this year. It just came in because I kept getting messages. Because when I run my medium group, I get a message now and again. And it was last year saying, you need to write a book. And I've heard it for decades. And I said, I'm not interested to. I haven't got time to write a book. I'm not boring. I have to be excited to do anything. Yeah, the heart excitement. And then it just came out. I said, I am the book. And they went, what? I said, I'm an audio book. And then I realized, I'm an audio book. And that's what my shows are about.
You're a living audio book.
I hope. Well, I could be dead and we're in the Sixth Sense movie somewhere. And I'm like, you sure I'm alive? No, I'm a living audio book. And so are you. You're a living audio book. And I've always found since the last show when we were together and when we spoke off camera, the similarities that we've experienced and, jack of all trades and master of none.
Yes.
In everything I do, I've done that, been there, done it, did it. And people go, yeah. Or where's your PhD?
Right.
Don't give a fuck about a PhD. And I love having the multiplicity and the diversity of using psychic abilities, or psychic traits of the human being in multiple different ways. I would never want to stagnate into one. I couldn't.
Me either. I would be bored to death.
I'd be bored.
Yeah.
I'd turn into drink because it wouldn't happen. I couldn't do it like that. So, but no, I really, I'm saying you're a blessing in my life. Yeah,
Well,
you are.
thank you.
No, you are, Gail. I just think you're fun, and I want my jam as well. So, you know. And before we conclude the show, I need to say, David, rubbish, darling, rubbish. Anyway, so Gail, it's been absolutely amazing, and you're going to have to come back on again, which you will do, and you'll come on with David, but you've got to come back on single on your own again. Before we go, could you just let everyone know where they could get hold of you, or blah de blah?
If anyone wants to hear any of the shows I've been a guest on, or any of the shows on a small, medium, at large podcast, the easiest way is to go to my website, a small, medium, at large.co. And every YouTube video is there, and every show I've been on is there. Plus, there's bios and photos and things if they want to see, Huichols or Mongolians or things that we've done in the past. I think that's the easiest. I do have a show every other Wednesday, so it's twice a month that I have the podcast. And I've had Dean Radin and Russell Targ and Nick.
Yes, I've watched them. I've watched them.
We have some interesting guests they could check out, and some people that are not famous people that have very beautiful stories to tell and books that they've written.
But one thing, I'm playing catch up with you now, see, because one thing, like David's going to come onto my show, one thing your show did at the very beginning, as your marriage to David has been the paranormal, spirituality and science, your shows have that balance, spirituality and science. And the scientists that come on your show are open. They're not all the same, because I do listen to them. I have so many podcasts I have to go around, and I'm doing my own, but I do listen because I like to be kept in the loop, especially when it comes to science and spirituality. So you've got that balance in your show, which I think is wonderful as well. You're a wonderful living audiobook, by the way.
The other part is that on every one of my shows, my idea is that they share intimate stories that heal.
Yeah.
And they inevitably have all shared things that later they say, I've never said that on a show before.
Yeah.
And I really am glad to be able to touch them in a way that they feel comfortable enough, my guests, to talk about their childhood joys or traumas or whatever it is that helped to shape into who they are today.
And see, that's what you do. You're a love bug, and you are contagious. On that note, I'm going to say, I love you. Stay there. Don't go. I love you and thank you. And you will be returning to Open Minds or Inception soon. And thank you so much indeed.
And thank you.
Oh, no, you're welcome. I've had a blast. I knew it would be a blast. I knew it would be a giggle. And I knew it would be interesting and beneficial, because I learn every time I have a guest on. I'm learning. I'm expanding.
Me too. Yeah. Learning, and I find this healing going on in my own self.
Yes.
And I'm meeting amazing people. I'm just saying, the passion for this and reading, and also, just like you're saying, we're finding camaraderie.
Yes.
I'm finding people that you can tell your story and they have the same story. It's a wonderful thing.
And it makes, because you go through a period, no matter what area for your spirituality you come, that you feel that you're barely no mates, you're alone.
Right.
And it can be quite, like low, and what do I do? And you've got this passion and joy. You want to share your experiences, but there's no one there. But through running the pod, I think everyone should go and do a podcast, to be honest with you. It doesn't cost anything.
No, and it's a wonderful way of meeting new people at a time when we're not traveling that much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think, anyone will want to travel after this as well, because it's an easy way. But what it's done, and which I love, is like I always say, I smoke on my show, I sit in my front room on my show, And my shows, I like them to be organic, natural, and my guests to be whoever they are. Way back shows, they wore ties and dressed up, put all the makeup on, the scenery had all that effort. And it took you away from the guest that was on the show. You weren't actually.
Well, I've been asked to put makeup on numerous times,
Piss off.
and I tried it once, and it's on a show on Jeffrey Mishlov's. I think it's my first show on the Mongolians, and I look ridiculous. I have lipstick on because I was trying.
No, I can't do that.
And then if I try to put mascara on, it's all over my eyes. I mean, I make a mess. I just have to be myself. I can't make myself.
I'm in agreement. Just be yourself, and I'm exactly the same. And I think when you allow your guest or a host like yourself, when I come on your show, allows me just to be me,
yes,
you will get the biggest and better version of me. Oh, David! I love you, David. I love you, David.
She said rubbish numerous times while you weren't listening.
Rubbish, David. Rubbish. Stand back. Okay. What we're going to do, I'm going to thank you again because me and you won't shut up.
I know.
Stay there. Don't go anywhere. And to the audience, I'm Gloria. This is Open Minds live chat show. Thank you for watching. Until the next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.